Assalamualaikum to all of our listeners. We are back with another podcast session after 3 with me, Brother Darwish and Sister Mina here.
Assalamualaikum everyone.
You know, Sister Mina, recently there is a hot topic about zakat. It was reported by The Star that there are recipients of monthly zakat assistance with savings up to hundreds of thousands of ringgit, and this happened in the state of Pahang.
I'm sure this must have caused some upstir because while there are so many people who are in need but couldn't receive zakat assistance, how can there be some people who have a lot of savings in the bank receiving monthly zakat assistance? Because surely by definition they are not Islam.
Certainly, it is definitely an issue that needs to be addressed because this shows the effectiveness of our zakat distribution system. So our topic of discussion for today is why zakat is not properly channeled to the deserving. There are a lot of irresponsible people out there that take advantage of zakat distribution. Even though they are not deserving of it, they still apply and give wrong information about their income or financial wealth in order to get the zakat aid. In order to tackle this issue, we need to know how one is identified and unable to afford to make a living or poor. Sister Mina, could you explain on this matter?
Yeah, so I agree with you about those irresponsible people who takes others' rights and they are not ashamed of their actions. Back to your question, the zakat recipients that we focus on now are those categorized as al-fuqara, the poor, and al-masakin. Although there are other categories of asnaf that are mentioned in the Quran, but today on our discussion we are focusing on these two. So the definition provided by the PPZai website says that al-fuqara are those who do not have any occupation or wealth or are receiving income from other sources where the total does not exceed 50% of his daily necessities and the need of its dependent, as well as doesn't exceed 50% of daily expenditure of a person who is living a conservative lifestyle. So the needy, on the other hand, are individuals who have a job or income, but it only covers half of its basic necessities and not sufficient to cover daily necessities and to support its dependents.
That means these people have an income which is lower than the average based on their state or no income at all. From my understanding, the zakat recipients need to apply from the zakat portal in order to get the zakat money. The applications will be screened and checked before the applications are approved. Can you elaborate more on how those applications were screened?
Sure. So the selection of asnaf can be categorized into 4 steps, which are census, review, investigation, and decision. The census is conducted every 3 years by the parish assistant amil as the acting lembaga zakat Selangor, or in other states, their own state board. Then the review will be assisted by the officer on duty every year. The investigation that is done every year is the duty of officials who have been set by their own state board, and they will review current applications or new findings that are studied and researched throughout the time. Then the decision will be reached by the individual who is in charge of conducting the survey, and finally the application will be registered as asnaf according to the appropriate category.
It can be said that the selection process is quite strict and detailed, as those applicants will be investigated and reviewed by the officer in charge. So going back to our main issue about certain recipients that receive zakat money but having huge amounts of savings in their bank account, how is it possible that they still receive zakat?
It is because zakat recipients in Malaysia are selected based on their annual income rather than their savings. So if their annual income is below the poverty line set by their states, they are eligible to receive zakat regardless of how much savings they have in their bank account. So as a result, possessing a substantial saving amount does not automatically exclude individuals from receiving zakat.
But didn't they need to provide their bank statement of their account when applying for zakat?
Yes, that's true, but the zakat authority only asks for the first page of the bank statement that shows the name and account number of the zakat recipient for the purpose of crediting money to the bank account only. So they're not required to provide detailed information on the transaction that occur in their bank accounts or their total savings.
Oh, that's why people are receiving zakat still, even though they have large savings in the account. Is there any other reason why this issue happens?
Yes, if a person has large savings, but their debt is higher than their savings, which makes them unable to repay, they may also still be eligible to receive zakat. This is because the fundamental objective of zakat is to aid people who are experiencing genuine financial hardship, including those who are burdened by huge debts. Therefore, if a person's financial liabilities exceed their assets, they may still be eligible for zakat in order to alleviate the hardship. But the condition is that the debt must not be created for any un-Islamic purposes and the asset is not more than basic needs.
Oh, I see. So, in your opinion regarding this issue, what is the loophole? Is it the zakat monitoring process?
In my opinion, it appears that the zakat monitoring system may be one of the loopholes, but current patterns indicates that the issue in zakat distribution are not really primarily related to the system. This issue arises because the individuals themselves may not fully reveal their financial condition when applying for zakat. And this lack of transparency and inaccurate information has caused the wrongful zakat screening and selection process. This issue may continue even with upgrades and an emphasis on system enhancement because people are still giving wrong information in order for them to receive zakat. And furthermore, individuals may also lack knowledge regarding their zakat eligibility. They may not be fully aware of the principles and guidelines of zakat, which leads to misunderstanding and unintended misapplication. So, it is really critical for Islamic scholars, community leaders, and organizations to work together to address these issues and ensure proper zakat selection and distribution process. The effectiveness of this zakat system can be considerably improved by strengthening assessment mechanism as well as community education on the proper zakat application process so that zakat funds will only be channeled to people who truly deserve it.
After identifying the weaknesses of the screening or monitoring process of the zakat recipients, we can tell that the zakat authority needs to make changes or improve their processes. Even though it is hard because there are a lot of applications and it requires a lot of time to really investigate those applicants. What is your opinion on this matter?
First of all, I don't want to say that the distribution of zakat in Malaysia is not good or not properly managed by the authorities. This is because the zakat distribution process in Malaysia is far ahead compared to other countries that are members of the World Zakat and Wakaf Forum. Although at national level, there are some people who are unhappy and dissatisfied with the performance of zakat management agencies. In fact, Malaysia is actually on the best track and is recognized by foreign countries. It is just that we need to make improvements on certain parts that need extra attention, like screening and monitoring process. And this is to ensure that zakat is actually distributed to the deserving. So in the selection process, for an instance, the applicants need to faithfully disclose all of their financial wealth. They cannot hide any information about their financial status from the officer. For example, these days, people have multiple bank accounts, and they may decide to disclose only one of their bank accounts, whereas in reality, the other bank accounts may have substantial amount of savings. And so, in order to combat this, actions need to be taken if the applicants are caught trying to hide their financial status or purposely try to not disclose some information in order to ensure that the applicants do not take advantage of zakat distribution. For the monitoring process, zakat agencies need to keep up to date with zakat recipients' financial status so that in the case the recipient's financial status has improved where they no longer require the aid, the assistance can be stopped immediately and given to other deserving people.
Well said. I just found out that zakat management in Malaysia is one of the best and being recognized by foreign countries. That's a good image for the zakat institution. Based on my research, there is still no integrated pool data system specifically for religious agencies across the country to be used by all agencies managing zakat to identify those who really deserve to receive the aid. What is your opinion on this system in order to ensure effective distribution of zakat to the deserving?
So, parallel to the development of technology, there is no doubt that the rapid development of AI system, artificial intelligence, and big data need to be optimized in order to simplify the distribution process without using a lot of human resources, as well as to speed up the process. So the Zakat Authority need to consider this integrated data system in order to ensure that the Zakat distribution is going smoothly. And I also want to add that the Zakat Authority need to take action for those who fake their information to get Zakat, perhaps by blacklisting those names, as well as to suspend their aid immediately.
We've come to the end of our podcast. So much we covered until this point. Anything you want to add more, Sister Mina?
Yes, so all in all, we can see that Zakat application has to go through 4 stages of processes before being approved as Zakat recipients. And the processes are census by the parish assistant Amil, review by the officer on duty, annual investigation by the officials, and finally decision by the person in charge. We can also see that the amount of savings one have doesn't affect his or her eligibility to become a Zakat recipient. This is because the selection of Zakat recipient is based on annual income. So, it is hoped that people can be more transparent and honest in declaring their annual income and wealth for the purpose of Zakat distribution.
With that, we reached to the end of our podcast. Thank you so much for your insights, and I hope all of our listeners can benefit from it.
Thank you so much for having me.
With that, Assalamualaikum everyone, and see you on our next podcast session. Bye.